Welcome. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching the Conscious Matters show on the BBTV network. Within our conscious agenda, we're increasingly talking about authentic conscious marketing. Now, this goes beyond, say, swapping print for digital brochures. To us, authentic conscious marketing is carefully considering how a business presents itself, what it says. It's about how that business consciously embraces diversity, equality, inclusion in its marketing messages, and how it delivers authentic communication. Now, to many marketers and business leaders, this is a whole new challenge. It's a major communication subject and one that I suggest needs expert input. So I'm making a return visit to Los Angeles to revisit one of the most recognized voice artists. She's an actor. You may have seen her in Grey's Anatomy. She is the author of the Get Clever About Voice Acting and Announcing ebook series and the host of Instagram live streams. So hello again, Lili Wexu.
Hello, Malcolm. It's such a pleasure to be here today with you
Yeah,
again.
it's fantastic, and it's cold here in the northeast of England. So don't tell me it's nice, hot, and warm in Los
I
Angeles.
won't.
You won't.
I
You
will.
won't. You won't.
I will lie to you just because you want to. You want to hear it.
I know you're good at voices, so I know you're lying, right? Lily, it's good to chat with you again. Now, conscious marketing is a subject that's fast developing worldwide, but I'm going further with authentic conscious marketing around the planet, people, and profits agenda, to which we've also added presence, the need for authentic communication. Can you explain how to go about matching the voice in voiceovers to the purpose? What can go wrong if it's not done correctly?
When we're talking about matching the voice to the purpose, what we're really talking about is bringing meaning to the messages that we're creating, right? And so the messages are really the hero right now, what we're saying. And so the right voice is really going to elevate that message. And so it will make it stand out and make it the hero that this message is. And so when you're doing this, you're casting your voice. What will usually happen is that if your message is really well written, there'll be one or two or three voices out of the group that you audition that will really just stand out and give it that meaning. And you'll hear it, and the choice will just be so obvious. So the choice usually kind of makes itself. As far as what can go wrong when you do it, well, you could get arrested by the ethics police.
Yes, yeah.
No, but what can happen usually is that you may alienate a little bit of your target market, or the message can just fly over their heads or just fall flat. And when you think about that, what you're really doing is just leaving money on the table. It's really as simple as that.
As simple as that. I like that. That's good. Now, but our businesses yet adjusting their communication to embrace the conscious agenda. I know many talk about, say, switching to green energy, but that's often with a saving intention. How would you select a voice to communicate, let's say, the need for companies to embrace mindfulness within their people? What briefing would you expect from the marketing or commissioning company?
When we're thinking about mindfulness, we're thinking about caring, being in the moment, being authentic, having empathy. So those are all things that you'll want to find in your message and in your voice. And again, if the message is crafted well, there will be a voice that just comes in with those attributes. So really, you want to think about whatever it is that you want to convey, think about what that brings to mind, and the voice will have those exact same attributes.
Brilliant, yeah. You've succeeded in a tough world, especially in Los Angeles, a world which led to the Me Too movement. Do you think change is happening and that there's correctly more opportunities for women in your sector to develop a career, or is there still a callous approach? And what can accelerate change?
Our relationship with the norm evolves. How we were 50 years ago, 100 years ago is different than how we are now. And so what's happening in the voiceover world is very much the same as what's happening on the marketplace and in the outside world. So women do very, very well in voiceovers. However, just like in society, sort of the higher earning roles, for instance, in the outside world, leaders of businesses or government, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector, where you have to have a lot of authority. and the earning potential is very high, it's harder for women to break through those barriers. So in voiceovers, incidentally, it's the same thing. So there are certain sectors like the TV promo sector or movie trailer sector where the voice should have a lot of authority. That's harder for women to break into. And incidentally, those are the highest earning areas of voiceovers. So the same challenges we're finding in society are the ones that we find in the voiceover sector. What can accelerate change? I think it's just embracing reality. Strong women exist. We have to support them. We have to see the value of their contribution. We have to continue raising strong girls. So I think once we're exposed enough to them, then it becomes sort of less weird. It's like being exposed to something different. At first, you're a little bit scared of it. And when you're exposed to it enough, you just go, oh, that's not really a threat. And you embrace it. So I think, at the end of the day, it comes down to finding the right voice. And the definition of the right voice is just changing.
Yeah, I do believe that women have a much more persuasive voice as well, particularly in this area that we're talking about where we need to have change. Men can be a bit sort of abrupt with their change, and that creates a problem, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I mean, we're used to having to, change all the time. It's part of sort of femalehood. So yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. It's a good observation.
Lily, just before we move on to the next question, let's make sure everyone has taken down your website URL so they can follow through on this interview. I'll read it out for listeners, but viewers can see it on the screen behind me. For listeners, it's Lili Wexu voiceovers.com. Let me spell that out. Lili is Lili. Wexu is Wexu. Voiceovers, I guess you can get, .com. So Lili Wexu voiceovers.com. Lili, let's imagine that there's a chief marketing officer watching this. Well, I know there's many who do. Well, after your last visit, many who watched. Somebody's watching this who gets it, that he or she needs to be a more conscious marketer, make changes, and communicate that both internally and externally, not just across products, but also across corporate messaging, especially audio. But the problem is the company's doing well at this moment, and the CEO and the traditional white male, older age board are resistant to people change and only interested in profits and balance sheets and especially recouping pandemic losses. Why do they need to change their marketing messages? After all, a voice is just a voice, is what many will think. What would you say to that chief marketing officer to help him or her make their voice heard and successfully get the CEO and board to hold a communications review and see the advantages of a Lili Wexu makeover to their voiceovers? And I'm talking commitment here, not just lip service that falls away quickly.
Well, everybody should get a Lili Wexu makeover. I love that. Saying a voice is just a voice is like saying a logo is just a logo or a message is just a message. You'd never just get any old logo and run with it. There's a lot of thought that goes behind a logo and a message because it represents your brand. It's your identity. And it's the same thing with a voice. Your voice can make your customers feel included. The voice can intrigue your customers. So it's part of the branding. And when you have good messaging together, that really creates successful marketing. And if it's done well, it becomes identifiable marketing. So it's just an integral part of your brand. Now, as far as change, demographics change and the world changes, right? What worked before the pandemic and during the pandemic and after the pandemic can be three different things. And so on the one hand, I think resistance to change is normal. We don't like it. It's inconvenient. It's not fun having to change. But really, when you have these big societal changes like what we're talking about today, with conscious marketing, those things, they build on what came before. So it's helpful to think of change as sort of building on what's already working. You can keep what's already working. You just have to build on it. And, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, there'll be more changes, right? So let's say what I did 25 years ago to what I'm doing now, it may look very different, but it's just that I've built upon what I was doing at the beginning. And you have to do that to stay relevant. Companies know there are very few companies who are immune to having to adjust to change in order to stay in business. It's just part of, being human and doing business.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree. Oh, should we book that appointment together for 10 years' time now?
Yes, let's do it.
I'll have to take a rain check on the 20.
Don't say that. You'll
Yeah.
still be here. I just know
Yeah.
it. And you'll be behind that
Shh, shh,
microphone.
please don't tell my wife. That'll frighten her. Lili, it's 2021. And sadly, our last question. Our theme here at BVTV for 2021, the first quarter, is awaken. We're saying businesses have been slumbering. People have been slumbering. It's time to awaken. What three things do you want business leaders to awaken about in respect of your work?
Well, the first thing would be, don't try to be a million different things to people in your one message. Keep it simple. If you have to create different messages, do that. But your messages should be concise and simple. Number two is, when you're working with a voice, don't give them same thing, a million attributes, 15 different things you're trying to get them to do. Pick two attributes. For instance, you want the voice to be strong but inviting, or free-spirited but empathetic. Two simple things, because as performers, we need to be inspired, and there needs to be room in there for our interpretation. And number three is, trust the talent that you work with. If you have a strong message and you've narrowed it down to a couple of attributes that you need, the talent will come and make your message stand out, bring it the meaning that it has, and make it a successful campaign.
Absolutely brilliant. Lili Wexu of Lili Wexu Voice Service. I've thoroughly enjoyed coming back to meet you again in LA, even if it is a little bit too hot for me there at the moment compared to here in the UK. But we are going to talk to each other again, because conscious marketing and your skill set within that is going to really help people to realize, bring it correctly to life. Thank you for a great interview again.
It's such a pleasure, Malcolm. I look forward to the next time.